Chapter 61 Free is the most expensive. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Both the money and the future are vast. Of course, it has not yet been determined whether the intelligent sweeping robot can attract relevant departments, but even if it is shady, the holiday promotions such as Double 11 will come. This round, try not to impose any purchase restrictions. It is too prodigal for customers to pick and choose when they come to send money. After communicating with Dong Qi through the Boundary Monument, asking him to continue to cooperate with Luo Songtangyin. Grasping production, Gu Qin washed up and went to bed. A few days ago in Munich, Germany, Xiaowei launched the latest flagship Xiaowei Mate 10 series mobile phones, and the overseas response was enthusiastic. When the time came to 14:30 p.m. on October 20th, Xiaowei finally held a press conference for the Bank of China at the Pudong Oriental Sports Center. Because of the conference in Munich, the functions of Xiaowei's Mate 10 series mobile phones have been exposed. At the beginning of the press conference, Gu Qin finally got the data he wanted. Just like when a merchant wants to sell something, he will naturally say how good his product is and how many people buy it. Xiaowei and Qingdong made a summary of related business. In the first 3 quarters, the sales volume of mobile phones was 112 million units, an increase of 19% year-on-year. And the global shipment of Xiaowei Mate 9 series exceeded 10 million units. This summer, it ranked first in customer satisfaction with mobile phones, and also ranked first in mobile phone service satisfaction, surpassing Apple for a time. The Bank of China version of Xiaowei Mate 10 series mobile phones is consistent with the previous overseas releases, but the only difference is the price. Before the German conference, the price of Mate 10 series mobile phones was, Mate 10, €699, about 5,437 yuan, Mate 10 Pro, €799, about 6,215 yuan, Porsche version, €1,395, about 10,851 yuan. Compared with the price of the National Bank version, Xiaowei is more benevolent this time. The sale starts at 3,899 yuan, and it has the same configuration as the foreign version. That's right, the cumulative sales of the previous Mate 10 series exceeded 10 million units within a year. This time, I will add buffs to you and strive to break through 15 million units, counting rice and Ijia, it should be 20 million units. Gu Qin participated in the press conference with a smile, as if watching the vegetable seeds he planted are finally about to germinate. The free strategy has allowed nearly 90% of Android users in China to install Boundary Monument, and the partnership has allowed 2 world-class mobile phone manufacturers and a potential stock mobile phone manufacturer to deeply bundle Zhuang with their mobile phones. When consumers get used to the Android phones supported by Boundary Monument, there are no freezes and some functions such as blocking advertisements, waiting for the contract to expire. Kyushu Technology wields the stick of patented technology. Is it okay to charge installation fees? No matter which Android mobile phone manufacturer you are, it is impossible to want your mobile phone to continue to prostitute Boundary Monument for free. If you want to use the initial version of Boundary Monument 1.0, you can pay 10 yuan for that mobile phone from the factory. Boundary Monument 1.11, 20 yuan is not expensive for this enterprise version. Boundary Monument Security Shield 1.0. The effect is powerful. You can choose to install it, and a mobile phone charges 100, no problem. Users who have installed it before, except for the mobile phones released during the contract period with the 3 partners, other old mobile phones can continue to prostitute for 1 year, and then charge the same manufacturer's fee. In the previous life, a relevant department once issued an announcement. The total number of smartphone users in that year exceeded 1.3 billion. Be conservative in this life. Let's take this number. The Android camp accounts for 80%, and there are 1.4 billion users. The payment rate is halved, which is 520 million paying users. For these 520 million people, even if they all buy the cheapest 10 yuan, that is 5.2 billion xia yuan, and it's not market capitalization, valuation, total assets, this is 5.2 billion cash. And it is based on the guaranteed income of domestic users. If you look outside, Boundary Monument supports all Android smartphones abroad, and it will be free for a while before charging. How much gain would that be? Harvest 10 billion Xie Yuan within 2 years without any problem. and this is just the most conservative estimate. There is also a login to the PC terminal to enter the computer optimization market. $10 can get a 10% performance improvement. Countless gamers will bear it. When Xuanwu has harvested enough data with the help of Boundary Monument, Kyushu Technology Company will continuously produce a series of products based on digital technology. It ranges from mobile computer optimization to game engine and industrial software design. However, this is all a vision for the future. At present, we still need to rely on partners and free services to seize enough markets. Hey, when I think about it this way, I seem to be exactly the same as those monopoly companies. Free and low prices even subsidize users to seize the market. When users get used to the market model and the old ones are eliminated, they will charge again and cut users. Cutting off merchants is really greedy. Clap clap. Thinking of this, Qing clapped along with the others beside him. The former lamented the strength of himself and the future, while the latter lamented Xia Wei's strength. After participating in a perfect muscle show meeting, the organizer, as always, entertained all partners with a big meal. Xiao Gu, come sit here. Yu Qingdong smiled and beckoned Qing to sit down. Brother Yu's face is really refreshing and rosy on happy occasions. Qing said with a smile. Yu Qingdong also smiled when he heard the words. Indeed, there has been a lot of good news recently. Some time ago, the State Intellectual Property Office announced the ranking of brands accepting invention patent applications in 2016, and Xiaowei ranked first in the list. On May 4, IDC released the Xiaoyin Star Calendar 1017 Q1 Daxia smartphone market report. The data shows that Xiaowei, OPPO, and Vio are among the top three, with Xiaowei ranking first. Of course, what made him happiest was that according to the report published by the research organization Canalys, Xiaowei's mobile phones performed well in Europe, surpassing Apple in sales in the second quarter, and rose to the second place in the European market. Although Xiaowei is not expected to hit the high-end market in China, he still has achieved results abroad. After a little talking to the little brother in front of me, who I am optimistic about, the expression on the other side made me feel very comfortable, a sense of accomplishment that pretends to be more successful than pretending to be successful. Of course, Qing's reaction was to match the other party's half surprise and half acting. He has a general impression of Xiaowei's hard work in foreign markets. But how did he know that Xiaowei is so strong in the European market? This is still the result when the Mate series was not launched, and when the Mate series was launched. You are Sodiao, plus a group of friends who are selling goods aggressively. You have earned all the money on the surface. If the United States does not make trouble, I am really sorry for the capitalists behind the United States. Of course, it is impossible for Qing to say this exclamation to Qingdong. All he can do is. I hope that Xiaowei's shipments in 2017 can reach a new high. Brother Yu, I would like to toast you. I also wish Mr. Gu that Kyushu Technology will have a smooth sailing this year. P.S. So why it is free, this is part of the reason. Chapter 62 Someone came to vote. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It is said that cooking sheep and slaughtering cattle is a pleasure, and you will have to drink 300 cups at a time. The dishes of this banquet are naturally rich, with delicious delicacies piled up table after table. Thinking of the little friends in the distant city of Rongqing who were still working overtime at this time, Qing felt that the hairy crabs in his mouth were so heavy. TSK, this hairy crab really has a lot of yellow. Dip the dish with vinegar, eat a shell of crab roe, and then eat the meat in the big tongs. The empty hairy crab is thrown aside. As for the meat on the calf, it is naturally not eaten when it is cold. It's not that Qing is wasting it, it's just that few people eat the dishes on this table. In the first half an hour, the bosses were drinking, and they didn't eat anything at all. Then they walked to other leisure areas in small groups, chatting and laughing, talking about cooperation or industry. After all, it is possible to have further exchanges with so many relevant industry leaders, and usually there is no such opportunity for gatherings. And Qing looked young. Many people regarded him as the second generation, and after he had a drink with Yu Qingdong, he ran to the table in the corner. So he was quiet, just eat all kinds of treasures like this, and experience life flavors. Mr. Gu, is there no one sitting next to you? Suddenly, someone ran to the table in the corner. As a cook, Gu Qing just glanced at the person and shook his head. Without. Concise, mainly because the things in the mouth have not been swallowed, and it is not very polite not to reply. The person who came was very polite. He moved the seat to one side to make room for Gu Qing, and then sat down, under the bright light. This man, who looks a lot like Zhang Guangbei, played by Chu Yunfei, is wearing a black suit and has a good posture. The crab shells were cleaned. Gu Qing was rather surprised and thanked him. For so many years, his father has never served him like this, although it is said that there is nothing to be courteous, and it is either rape or robbery, but looking at this uncle seems to be subconsciously habitual, so Gu Qing looked at him with a look full of sympathy. This one, perhaps also has a virtuous wife at home, but this can't delay Gu Ganfan's hunting action. The past 2 years have been hard for him. In order to start a business, he ordered a meat dish in the cafeteria on weekdays, and he had to be cute, so please be steady. After a small step of success in starting a business, the result is to engage in the production of smart home appliances, and the money in the purse is instantly emptied. When the product was launched, a large sum of money was in the pocket, and the trip to Germany was another way to squeeze out the rich money. When the cheeks were biting a little sore, Boss Gu put down the big lobster claws in his hand and sat down on the seat. Forehead. When people are full, the blood is concentrated in the stomach, so the blood supply to the brain will decrease, and people will feel sleepy. Gu Qing caressed his bulging belly, narrowed his eyes slightly, with a relaxed expression. Zhang Yuanfeng chewed and ate slowly for a while, seeing that the young man beside him seemed to be falling asleep. He was still thinking about whether he should take this step or not. He has been in the human resources industry with ups and downs for so many years. But because he is too upright, that is, he is poor and fastidious, and he is unwilling to lick his boss too much. In addition, he was framed by his colleagues for drunk driving a while ago, and was cheated of a lot of money. And now I have lost my job, and I still have a wife and children to support. This accident made him depressed for a while, and because of the problem of drunk driving and saying hello to his former company, the previous relationship is not working now. For the banquet tonight, he still sneaked in from the back kitchen of the hotel. The lazy young man beside him was his target, Gu Qing, the big boss of the Kyushu technology company to which the Android system optimization black technology, Boundary Monument, belongs that suddenly appeared in recent months. At present, this Kyushu technology company has, Boundary Monument, in terms of software, with hundreds of millions of installed users, and in terms of hardware products, it has the currently hot-selling Titan Star series smart home robots. The prospects of the project are very bright, but there are obviously big problems inside the company, and there is a serious shortage of human resources. The management of the two departments of finance and operation are their roommates. There are advantages and disadvantages in this aspect. The good side is high loyalty, and the bad side is lack of ability. As for other departments, it can be called a desert, and there are almost no talents that can be obtained. Only Director Luo of the home appliance manufacturing factory has some skills. Gu Qing just squinted his eyes like this, and glanced at the other party secretly from time to time. Seeing his hesitant to speak, a kind of bad taste arises spontaneously, but he still underestimated the old fritters who had been struggling in the society for more than 10 years. Zhang Yuanfeng heard the change in Gu Qing's breathing, so he knew that the young genius boss was awake. Mr. Gu, hello, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Zhang Yuanfeng. I have worked in the field of human resources for more than 10 years. I have relatively rich university resources and social resources. I am currently unemployed. I hope to serve your company and you contribute to the cause. Zhang Yuanfeng doesn't do much to be respectful to young people of the younger generation, but after all, he has something to ask for. When Gu Qing heard this, apart from being surprised, he also felt a sense of accomplishment. My company can finally attract people to take the initiative to join me. Of course, he also knew that the other party already knew that he was awake. Then he gave a hatch and asked, I don't know, what do you think? Tell me. Once a person becomes lazy, he will not bother to pay attention to the occasion and wording when speaking. Zhang Yuanfeng thinks that this is the characteristic of a genius, not sticking to any one detail, he said without hesitation. Currently the mobile phone market is mixed, but Xiaowei, Dami, Viv and other brands made in Daxia are sold overseas. And the number of smartphones at home and abroad has already exceeded 4 billion. Boundary Monument, no one can match it. I heard that our company is unable to make a lot of money from Boundary Monument, due to contract issues, so Mr. Gu, you have opened up the smart home appliance market. There are mature factories and core independent technology, but there are not enough matching management talents, R&D talents, marketing and development talents. In this regard, I have a solution. Because I have worked in 4 listed companies for more than 10 years, and the school recruitment and social recruitment are related to many university-related personnel every year, so I can win enough excellent talents for the company in a short period of time, instead of relying on Sichuan. The contacts of colleges and universities in Shu and Director Luo came to give blood to the company. After all, Great Xia has a vast land and resources, and there are so many talents in 985/211 and the society. If we only rely on Sichuan, the limitations will be too great after all, and I have a family. For the sake of my family, my subjective initiative will be higher than others, and I will not jump to other companies for a little profit. P.S. Thank you for the 71 recommended tickets from Phantom Lanji, the boss is generous, and thank you for the tickets for my friends. I love Zhong Chuhong, Little Fury, Mass 2, and Mountain Dance Silver Snake. Chapter 63 Human Resources. You are listening at novelfull.audio. For the family. Then what was your drunk driving accident a while ago? Gu Qing picked up the phone and asked, after all, if someone comes to vote, he also needs to know what the quality of the other party is like. Xuanwu, now it is possible to query personal public information on the internet in Daxia domestically very quickly, of course, because of the special environment. 99% of the people in Daxia do not have privacy in their personal privacy, even if you don't invade any secret servers and databases. Just search public platforms such as forum posts, and chat server groups. As long as you are careful and secretive enough, you can gain the privacy of many people. Zhang Yuanfeng, Human Resources, 2 keywords can be deleted to select more accurate results. Zhang Yuanfeng, 36 years old this year, there are seniors and juniors, but a while ago he hit someone while drinking and driving. Although there was no accident of disability, he was still fired by the original company. It turns out that Mr. Gu has also heard about it. Alas, colleagues are enemies, and colleagues are more likely to make bad people. I also blame myself for trusting my colleagues too much. I shouldn't ride in my own car after drinking. Zhang Yuanfeng's tone was a little low. Oh. Sounds like some stories. Gu Qing suddenly became interested when he was full and had nothing to do. Just like that, a middle-aged man began to talk about his own experience. With this talk, Gu Qing added another person on the plane back to Rongchen. When he left, he was rich. When he came back, he had nothing to worry about, and he brought a middle-aged man with him. After getting off the plane, I went straight back to the company headquarters in the suburbs. The incubators in the urban area are now all customer service personnel. The big boss is back. The big boss is back with a big man. Dong Qi, Huang Chaoran and others who sensed the problem naturally interviewed him immediately. Gu Qing naturally introduced it to both parties. As a veteran driver in the workplace, Zhang Yuanfeng has a lot of experience in this situation. It didn't take long for the strangeness and estrangement between the two parties to fade away a lot. Then came the office. The communication and cooperation between Luo Songtang and Dong Qi during this period is still not a problem. Now the management of the factory area is still the factory manager Luo, but as long as it is related to finance and attendance audit, the vice president is in charge, sitting on the first seat, looking at the dozen or so people seated in the office. Gu Qing was delighted as if seeing some of the melons and fruits grown by himself finally ripen. After introducing the new human resources director to other management, it is time for each department to report, although Xuanwu sorts out the company's large and small data through Boundary Monument. Every day, the data reports given by Xuanwu are cold, but the voices of his subordinates' reports are alive. Of course, you can also compare the reports of these people to see which moths are there. However, after several rounds of reports, no moths have been seen yet. After the report was over, it was Boss Gu's turn to speak. During the time of the business trip, it can be seen that everyone is diligent and diligent. Whether it is factory employees or customer service department, many people have worked overtime from 3 shifts to 2 shifts, the product sells well in exchange for everyone's hard work. Of course, the salary will be worthy of everyone. Overtime wages will not be doubled. Employees and management whose working hours exceed the average will receive an additional 10 days of annual leave. Just give them a 3-day compulsory holiday, with pay, of course. When I say this, it's a bit like amnesty to distribute benefits to the world. The reason for adding 10 days to the annual leave is mainly because Qing hopes that the most tired people can pay more attention to rest. Where there are scabs, there are naturally model workers. There are some people who will support their bodies and work crazy overtime in order to make money to support their families. This is obviously exchanging health for money, so the top 10 labor models should let them rest for 3 days. Production is important, but people are even more important. Director Zhuang, the Human Resources Department needs you to fill up as soon as possible, whether it's high-quality R&D talents or ordinary workers, we need them all. At present, especially skilled workers are in short supply, and other companies and factories pay low salaries, which we have no control over, but here we all give high salaries. I don't care about the nature of wolves and sheep, but we must implement each contribution and harvest. Qing looked at Zhang Yuanfeng and said. Zhang Yuanfeng immediately felt the pressure coming up when he heard the words, although it was known during the previous investigation that the internal staff of Zhuzhou Technology Company was not perfect. How could it be known that the Human Resources Department was not fully organized? But the future is bright, and only such immature companies have more opportunities to flex their muscles. Immediately issued a military order. Mr. Gu, don't worry, I will integrate and recruit relevant personnel as soon as possible, and let the Human Resources Department burst into momentum within 2 weeks. Qing nodded with a smile and said, the factory area is currently building a new office building, and the customer service personnel are still in the urban branch. You and Vice President Dong communicate well, coordinate arrangements, and the cost of recruiting people for interviews in other places. They will all be reimbursed, and remember to take pictures and upload boundary monuments for backup based on these. Hearing Qing's words, Zhang Yuanfeng nodded and asked, then, is there a detailed arrangement for human resource allocation? Detailed arrangement? Qing thought for a while, and then said, in principle, there is no education requirement for technical employees, only occupational experience and certificate level requirements, and the age limit is under 40 years old, and under 50 years old for advanced jobs. As for office staff, you should discuss with the person in charge of the relevant department, but there is one point. You must reserve some places for fresh graduates who have no work experience, and you must promise them the salary and subsidies during the probationary period. After saying this, he looked at Dong Qi and said, the internal management and human resources departments must cooperate with each other. If someone cheats or does not act in office, he will be resigned directly. Our company has been established for just half a year, and at most we will give 1 monthly financial compensation. Of course, Qing actually already has a list in his hands, and it will be fine to see who has not been fired, and then added, after arranging the internal issues, he went on to say, the announcement issued by the Pudong Huangpu District Government Procurement Center, everyone has seen it on the boundary monument. Huangpu District Greening and City Appearance Administration Multifunctional Sweeper Procurement. Read the public tender announcement of the project carefully. Our products are very competitive and we will strive to win the bid. In my future plan, Kyushu Technology Company, Limited will be a technology group company with independent research and development capabilities and independent production capabilities to improve the work and life of consumers. Therefore, we must try our best to fight for bidding in government-related industries, of course, in line with the principle of legality and fairness. Qing started to draw big cakes while talking. Zhang Yuanfeng was new here, but it was the first time he saw his big boss speak at a meeting, and he felt a little weak inexplicably. Chapter 64 Arc Reactor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In fact, this society is sometimes really like a development and operation game with fewer bugs. Establish a project in the right direction, invest enough money, recruit the necessary talent and creative genius, and most importantly, special experimental equipment and time. Engaging in scientific research on high-tech hardware is really a project with a large investment and unstable financial returns. for example, the top treasure of modern industrial lithography machine. Nowadays, there is only one country in the world that can manufacture the top high-precision lithography machines, the Netherlands, a company named ASML in the Netherlands. However, it is such a monopoly dominance. The EUV lithography machine they manufacture costs 120 million euros. It is equivalent to 940 million yuan, but the money that can be sold and the funds invested cannot be offset at all, and this price is fine, and it will not be sold to outsiders at all, so the sales volume is not high. Another example is the artificial sun that Daxia is currently leading in global research, that is to simulate the environment of the sun's core on the Earth. So the related experimental equipment is also called artificial sun, and the full name is full superconducting tokamak nuclear fusion experimental device. East, of course, Qing can't afford these two things. The former requires too much high-precision manufacturing equipment, which needs to be refined slowly, the latter requires too much banknote resources. In order to stabilize the artificial sun and have practical applications, it requires a lot of zero capital investment, which can only be supported by the state, but as a person whose head is full of different dimensional technology, the latter, energy is actually easier to manufacture, but it is not an artificial sun, but a palladium reactor. Palladium, Pd, is the number 46 chemical element, and its elemental substance is a metal. The most important thing is that palladium can absorb a large amount of hydrogen, which can even reach thousands of times its own volume, and the hydrogen can be released after only a little heating. Therefore, palladium has great potential as a hydrogen storage material. With such a strong potential, naturally many people want to play with it. At the end of the 20th century, two big names in the field of electrochemistry tried to use palladium to electrolyze heavy water, and then they published a conclusion after the experiment. This experiment had an unusually high energy output, and measured the output of neutrons and tritium, so they believe that palladium can induce nuclear fusion at room temperature, also known as cold fusion. You must know that in order for nuclear fusion to occur under normal circumstances, it is necessary to heat the fuel to tens of millions of degrees Celsius, so that the fuel has enough thermal kinetic energy to overcome the Coulomb repulsion between atoms to undergo fusion. If nuclear fusion can be realized at normal temperature, it will be a real energy revolution, thermal power generation that wastes resources and pollutes the environment, wind power generation that is troublesome to maintain and requires regional conditions, hydropower generation that needs to change the environment, and water-rich power generation. These power generation projects will all disappear in the dust of history because of this palladium element reactor, but the reality is not so simple. The experiments of these two giants in the electrochemical field have never been reproduced by the unworthy descendants of later generations. And the academic community has raised a lot of doubts about the results of the cold fusion of palladium element. The most scientific doubt is, the thermal kinetic energy of deuterium at normal temperature is far from enough to overcome Coulomb repulsion, and fusion cannot occur. Previous experiments have found that palladium intensifies deuterium-deuterium repulsion, making it less prone to fusion, so the palladium element reactor is like a farce. It was lively at first, but then it was deserted and deserted. From time to time, someone would come out and spit, but in the knowledge that Qing has passed down, there are big differences. Two big men invented the arc reactor powered by palladium, an energy supply device that can provide clean energy to the outside world. However, the first-generation arc reactor was very large and the energy conversion efficiency was very low. Later, one of the big men, the boy's children, improved the reactor design, successfully miniaturized it, and used it as a power source for their own armor. All physical problems can be described by partial differential equations, mathematical physics equations, about space and time. The theory of partial differential equations tells us that for a set of partial differential equations, there can be any number of solutions, so the definite solution is determined by the initial conditions and boundary conditions, called definite solution conditions. Philosophically speaking, the physical process described by partial differential equations is the internal cause, and the initial conditions and boundary conditions are the external causes. For a steady-state process, the definite solution condition is determined by the boundary condition. Specifically, it is determined by the first wall of the vacuum chamber facing the plasma and the wall conditions of the target plate of the diverter. Qing didn't fully understand the technology of the arc reactor, but he was able to do it step by step based on the knowledge in his mind. Of course, this is like a handicraft enthusiast assembling a super difficult model. Even if there are drawings, construction according to the drawings requires many trials and errors and corrections, but there is no way. The Guardian No. 1 mecha lying in the underground laboratory still relies on cables to transmit energy. December is coming. In order to surprise some people in Korea, the energy problem of the mecha must be solved, so since the last meeting and painting the cakes, Qing has returned to the cold underground laboratory. He eats 3 meals a day, How, who was modified from a large sweeping robot before. Xuanwu manipulates it to order food in the cafeteria. Then bring the food back, and while he was still beating and working hard, Harbin University of Technology is separated from Shishu University by thousands of mountains and rivers. In the postgraduate dormitory, there was a boy with black-rimmed glasses who was rushing to finish his thesis. Check the double check, damn that hammer, don't you quote it? How net is so expensive, isn't it just playing with snakeskin? Choose CI in the broken thoughts, that is called a gas. But thinking of the zero-tolerance attitude of relevant departments to academic fraud, and the measures to include academic misconduct in the list of dishonest persons, I still sighed in my heart. It still needs to be checked. He stretched, then looked down at the laptop display. However, Chu Ci suddenly noticed that the penguin icon in the lower right corner of the screen was flashing. Although he knew it might be an advertisement, he still clicked on it casually because he was a bit obsessive-compulsive, intending to close it. It turned out that the reminder of the message came from the tutor's group notification. His breathing froze for an instant. The supervisor of the graduate student is also the boss of the student. The project fee is the key point. If there is a problem from time to time, he must be on call, and most importantly, ordinary bosses can't beat and scold employees at will, but mentors can, even get a diploma. Chu Ci naturally clicked on the news in a hurry. Look at the robot in this video, you can tell if it is a synthetic CG image, and write a review tomorrow by the way. Followed by a video link. Chusi clicked on the link and jumped to Bijan's video page. Chapter 65 Exposed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Take a closer look at the title. The joys and sorrows of human beings are not connected, I just think they are noisy. Also published jointly, one up is called Qing, and the other is called Kyushu Technology Company. Isn't it some kind of company's advertisement promoting its products? The number of hits is actually several million, which is quite high. Although due to studies and research, he is too busy on weekdays and hasn't visited Bizhan for a long time, but Chu Ci still knows that the millions of videos played by Bizhan are generally interesting, especially a promotional video. Normally, he would not bother to watch it when this happens, but this time, it was a task assigned by the teacher after all, so he reluctantly clicked on the playback. Congratulations on finding the treasure of the town station. The light of domestic movies. Give me a chance, don't limit purchases. Take my wallet away. Put a stick of incense on the cold noodles before leaving. You're selling everything. That big guy has been on sale for a long time. That the overwhelming barrage covered the video. Chu Ci curled his lips and closed the barrage. After a long time without going to buy station to watch the video, the bullet screen was too dense, which made him a little uncomfortable. Move the progress bar to the beginning again. Click play. The picture was pitch black, and then the sound of a blacksmith striking iron gradually appeared. A few seconds later, a somewhat thin figure turned his back to the camera. He raised the hammer in his hand and forged the metal on the workbench, and on the ground under the figure's feet, lay a humanoid mechanical creation. Then the screen changed, and the 3-meter-tall mecha once again occupied the ceiling of the basement that had been expanded once. Like a giant mechanical beast, there are some ordinary household furniture and electrical appliances next to it, which can be clearly compared to the huge figure of Guardian No. 1. Guardian No. 1 self-test starts. There was a mechanical sound in the video, and the humanoid machine in the picture also moved. There are twists and turns of the joints, and close-ups of some of the drive equipment at work. The special effects are pretty good, and some of the transmissions look like this. Chu Ci commented subconsciously. Retrieve mission instructions and look for survivors. In the video, the mechanical sound sounded again, and the humanoid machine in the camera began to move. The sound of humming motors sounded in the silent room. The sound processing is too bad. No matter how the shock absorption system is done, it's impossible to be so light. Could it be that all the money was spent on the picture, but, next. Boom, there was a dull bang. I saw the metal arm of the humanoid machine hit the temporary wall of the laboratory with a fist, then the humanoid machine slowly disappeared into the darkness, all the furniture and the ground were left in ruins and a mess made by splashed bricks and stones, click. At this moment, the scene returned to the messy place, and there was a chubby robot working hard. A robotic arm protrudes from its head, picks up the bricks scattered on the furniture, and throws them into the body of the sweeping robot. In addition, the negative pressure suction of the chassis cooperates with the brush head, so there is no dust splashing and not much noise, and no dirt can be seen wherever it passes. The picture gradually dimmed at this moment, and finally, on the pitch black screen, Chinese characters slowly emerged. October 1st, Titan Star Smart Robot goes on sale. The robot in the video is the same as the real thing. It can be seen that this should be an advertisement for a sweeping robot. Chu Ci has already opened the document and wrote down some first impressions. The picture is relatively dim, the dubbing of the sound synthesis is not up to standard, and the effect of the model colliding with particles is good. But after all, it was the instructor's request, so he clicked on it a second time, but this time he chose 0.5x speed, and planned to go through it again, take a screenshot by the way, and start working. As for whether it is a synthetic CG. After working in this major for several years, he also watched a lot of robot experiment videos of the company. In order to achieve the effect of the big man in the video, regardless of the destructive power, it is possible to just walk, but looking at the destructive power, how much power does the motor need to directly smash a wall? At this stage, it is impossible, well, unless it is a wall of tofu. However, the beginning of 0.5x speed is a bit slow. Under the not-so-bright light, the man-shaped machine lying on the ground, the charm of the steel machine emerges spontaneously. Although it is synthesized by CG, the material effect is very realistic. The texture of the steel is simulated by a certain special steel. In this regard, Chu Ci still admires this CG production company. Then there is the self-test start, the twisting of the joints of the robot, and the close-up pictures of the work of some driving equipment. Chu Ci was very serious and took a picture of every part. Not to mention, the picture quality is exquisite, the light and shadow are also realistic, and the gaps between the model materials are all in shape. In particular, the reflections in the gaps are very realistic as the movement is illuminated by light and shadow. This company will not invite Industrial Light and Magic to do the advertisement. Does the instructor also want to make fake videos to cheat funds? After thinking about it, Chu Ci's thoughts drifted away. He didn't come back to himself until the video was over. Of course, there are already a lot of pictures and texts in the notes of after viewing, but to be conservative, he also found other brothers in the group, intending to ventilate. The first one is to send a message to my senior brother. Brother, our teacher, are you going to cooperate with a company that makes videos for a project? What he said was very cryptic, and he didn't say bluntly whether his teacher was planning to cheat the funds. After all, the teachers of Harbin Institute of Technology didn't seem to have such scumbags, or maybe it wasn't reported. After all, defrauding funds or something has happened to many universities. After a while, the brother replied, is our teacher that kind of scum? And this video is very evil. You can see it frame by frame. I didn't see any composited images. I'm using a magnifying glass to comparing. What magnifying glass? It's boring. The close-up torso of the big robot in the video gave me a lot of inspiration, as well as the transmission and the motor. The motor should use a vector-driven brushless motor, but its action command feels wrong. If it is synthesized by human motion capture, the relevant material collision and walking mode should not behave like this. The senior brother typed a long string of characters, and Chu Ci was taken aback for a while. This brother of his is now a PhD second student. He has a lot of stuff in his head, and his hands-on ability in experiments is even stronger. He also has a project in hand. He is very busy on weekdays. He can't wait to use it for an hour. Say idle and bored. Isn't this video synthetic? Confused, Chu Ci opened the video again and downloaded it in the background, but he didn't know that at this moment, many friends and teachers from science and engineering colleges in Daxia were watching this video. P.S. Thank you Xuanyu, Lingdong Chushue, Zhantai Gurong, and Just Love Zhong Chuhong for their votes. Good night. Chapter 66 Artificial Intelligence. You are listening at novelfull.audio. November 1st. Gu Qing woke up early. Sir, the breakfast served in the cafeteria today has millet porridge, which is very suitable for you who have been working underground for a long time. Xuanwu, as an artificial intelligence, you should learn to fix bugs and optimize the database by yourself. I work in an underground laboratory, and Chinese carries much more information than other languages. Remember to be more rigorous in the future. Gu Qing responded casually. Okay, young Mr. Gu, your tongue coating is a little white, and your waist is in poor condition. It is a manifestation of kidney deficiency and heavy dampness. Please pay attention to your diet and life. Xuanwu, after several months of huge data training, and the hundreds of millions of installed users of Boundary Monument, it is now possible to learn and master language skills through its own logical core. Gu Qing sighed deeply, and said, Xuanwu, you should use the previous language structure. Chinese is indeed a bit difficult for your current logical structure. Okay, sir. Today is the first day of November. Zhang Tianhao, as the project leader of the sweeping robot, will bid with a group of companies for the procurement project of sweeping machines in Huangpu District, Pudong City in a few hours. As the boss, Gu Qing finally experienced the comfort of letting his employees go on business trips and sleeping on his own. The new human resources director, Zhang Yuanfeng, has started a trapeze life since he established the framework of the department, recruiting people outside all day long. In fact, Dong Qi proposed to use a headhunting company at first, but what Gu Qing thought was that in the future, this company, as a giant, must cultivate enough high-level people who are loyal to the company. Even if these high-level executives can't grasp the real core power, they can't all be 25-year-olds. The people that headhunters can find are more realistic or egoists, those who are particularly talented and have good character, but are promoted to the upper echelons after being suppressed by the company. There are such talents in TV dramas. What an unreasonable situation, so it is very important to develop your own human resources department from now on. I'm going out to look around, the stability experiment of the arc reactor and the project bidding over there. Xuanwu, you are all watching. Okay, sir. After the words fell, Gu Qing walked out of the gate of the underground laboratory, because the materials and specifications of the arc reactor are based on miniaturized standards. Even if there is a mistake in the stability experiment, it will at most collapse the factory building here. Of course, the conscientious Gu Qing, even if he is 90% sure, doesn't want to gamble with this probability. The cool breeze in the morning blows on the cheeks, and it is late autumn in Sichuan in November. Workers going to work can still be seen along the road, as well as construction sites, because the effect of this year's expo is good. Kyushu Technology's home appliance robot has entered the first-class list, so the official subsidy review of Daxia has passed, and there is also a low-interest loan line, plus a tax-exempt policy for college students. When Dong Qi had just finished the accounts, he was in high spirits, and he walked in a flutter. As a result, Gu Qing swiped a pen, and the money was spent by the ignorant boss. The Kyushu Technology warehouse service company in Germany asked for money. Employees pay for overtime wages and ask for money. Buying equipment, buying raw materials, and giving orders to suppliers all cost money. Another major task is to build factories and research buildings. As for the new office buildings proposed by some management, it's not that the previous office building is unusable, it can do just enough. Dust-free research rooms and dust-free production workshops are necessary, but they are a bit more expensive, and low-interest loans are used. While admiring the construction site along the way, Gu Qing sighed. After the factory land is renewed, it can be mortgaged again. The young workers passing by don't know how sad their boss is at the moment. Of course, they are basically familiar with their bosses. Every Monday morning meeting, the young boss will say a few words either to tell everyone to eat well, or to add some new dishes to the canteen in the factory, which is neither as frivolous as the rich second generation, nor as eager to oppress each employee's time as other vampire bosses. Luo Songtang and Dong Qi, the combination of the old and the young, are also very strong in execution. In the general direction, they follow the guidance of Boss Gu, but when it comes down to it, they are the two of them staring at each other. Mr. Gu, good morning. When the aunt in the cafeteria saw her young boss, she smiled and said like a spring breeze. Good morning, Aunt Pang, come to a bowl of millet porridge, 2 steamed buns with cowpea meat, a flouring steamed bun, and a boiled egg. Andy took the plate, her hands and feet moved neatly, showing no sign of shaking at all. Gu Qing also swiped his meal card by the way, and at the moment he is enjoying life leisurely. He doesn't know how many people scratched their heads because of his little video last night. The morning sun shone into the dark dormitory, and Chu Ci woke up from his sleep. He took the phone casually and looked at it. It was 7 o'clock. The human biological clock is like this. Even if you have not slept all night and just lay down for a while, you will wake up for a while when you usually wake up. I was really tired last night. Stretching, there were crackling sounds all over my body. The young man is very angry. After a night, he sleeps without a quilt and does not catch a cold. After washing his face with cold water, he immediately refreshes himself. After washing up a bit, he left the dormitory building and went to the small supermarket downstairs to buy some bread for breakfast. Then he took his notebook and rushed to the teaching building. Last night, their brothers and sisters were analyzing the robot in the video frame by frame, and finally came to a conclusion that was very sci-fi. The real thing in that video may be real, and this morning is when the instructor asked them to give their impressions. Hey, it's the work of some great god. It's too unscientific to do this. Chusi, which focuses on ergonomics and mechanical properties and behaviors, is still pondering at this moment. After entering the classroom, he found that most of the brothers and sisters had dark circles under their eyes, so he couldn't help laughing. How early is it, brother? Morning Pete, do we look like we slept? Is the report ready? Some of the brothers and sisters complained. As for the senior sisters and sisters, the science and engineering department is still led by a teacher who focuses on materials and machinery. What is a girl? Not long after Chu Ci sat down, the classroom immediately became quiet. Zhuang Yue approached the classroom with a smile, saw the listless appearance of the students, and scolded, "Do you still want to go back to sleep when you are young?" The boss seems to have forgotten at this moment, who sent the task last night and asked the students to hand in the report in the morning, but it doesn't matter anymore. Professor Zhuang took out the USB flash drive in his hand, turned on the computer in the classroom and plugged it in. Harbin Institute of Technology is one of the top universities in Daxia that has really achieved scientific research results. Naturally, the computers in the classrooms will not be some old-fashioned big-headed computers that cheat subsidies. P.S. Thank you for the 44 votes recommended by the nerds of the new students, as well as the votes recommended by Little Fury War, Yang Sanshui, Wang 56, Shanwu Silver Snake, Shenmeng's Wyan. Tomorrow I have a day to change the text and correct typos. Because the day after tomorrow I want to be recommended on the web page and the client, so I hope everyone will have a better reading experience, and please count the votes, hehe. Chapter 67 The Virtue of Frugality. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Turn on the computer in 7 seconds, click on the file, and move the blackboard to the 2 sides, revealing the large display screen in the middle. Looking at Guardian number 1 in the video, as an authoritative professor in the mechanical field of Harbin Institute of Technology, his eyes were full of admiration. Hey, this body is really strong. A sigh of admiration with a northeast taste came out from the mouth of the professor with all over his head of white hair. Look at you guys day by day, confused. What's your impression of last night? The carefree old man waved his hand, and the students sighed in unison. A brother stood up. Teacher, we have all uploaded the group files. Of course, everyone has also brought reports. It's just that the time is too urgent, and some people didn't print them out. That's fine, just vote with a show of hands, if you feel that the robot in that video is actually made, without CG special effects. Raise your hand, and send me your argument after sorting it out, and vice versa. Although a little slow, a group of people who had communicated in the small private group raised their hands. Yeah, all the same. Then tell me, what is the power source of this robot? What is a transmission? How are its action modules and action editors compiled? Where is the instruction data module? Also, from the material point of view, how does several tons of metal achieve such amazing shock absorption? Any one of these key points can be used to publish SCI, and even if it is a system, 1 or 2 SCIs may not be enough. After the words fell, although the students all had this idea, they were still surprised. How difficult is an SCI paper? For this thing, 1 publication includes graduation, and 2 publications include employment. Publishing 5 articles is a scientific research expert, and the annual research funding starts at 7 figures. If you publish 10 articles, you will be academically free immediately. What is academic freedom? You can chat with big bosses like Yang Zhen and criticize other big shots, and it is impossible for others to tell you that you don't understand, or even think, there must be a deep meaning to what the big boss said. Okay, let me show you some information that I and other professors have found, and I will write a report today, and the day after tomorrow I will take some people to Rongqing in Sichuan and Sichuan. Is it Shishu University in Rongqing? Chu Ci asked weakly, unexpectedly. When Professor Zhuang heard this, he said angrily, go to Hammer Shishu University, and you don't talk about it. Whoever discloses this news outside, labor and management will prevent him from graduating. Zhuang Yuwei has no choice but to blow his beard and stare. There are a few old people arguing with him about the development of this technology. If people from Shishu University get wind of it, what can we do? 2 flowers bloom, each representing a branch. On the other side of the great Xia kingdom, Qing finished his breakfast and walked around the production workshop. Seeing that everyone was in full swing, he didn't bother to make trouble. On the other side of the laboratory building, some new researchers are learning about intelligent sweeping robots and intelligent dishwashers. Qing was still a little uncomfortable to leave the waste of energy to other people, without having to work hard in the research room, and suddenly be free. He was wandering around the park board when suddenly, his phone vibrated, because it is set that only the home phone and Xuanwu's emergency notification will vibrate. So Qing quickly took out his phone. Sir, people and institutions are looking for your personal information, resume and research papers. To be on the safe side, Xuanwu is currently outside, Xuanwu, to interact with Qing through information prompts, and then send detailed information in, Boundary Monument. When he opened the Boundary Monument, to take a look, he swiped a list of messages from Lala. When he saw that several university professors were inquiring about his information and were about to visit him, his expression froze. He didn't expect that he would get into trouble with old scholars today, and among them were big bosses from Harbin Institute of Technology. No matter in the previous life or in this world, Harbin Institute of Technology was on the list and recognized as a dangerous university by a certain country. Compared with Qingbei, Harbin Institute of Technology gained a great reputation among its own people after being affirmed by the enemy. Professor Zhuang from Harbin Institute of Technology and several other professors plan to come to Rongqing the day after tomorrow to see him. Don't they even say hello? As soon as he thought of this question, Dong Qi called. Mr. Gu, professors from Harbin Institute of Technology and several other universities in the East plan to organize a study and research team to come to our company the day after tomorrow to exchange academic research with our researchers, and said that if the cooperation is happy, they will conduct more in-depth discussions with us in the future. Cooperate. There was some joy in Dong Qi's words. The cooperation of several top universities in Daxia is equivalent to having a strong reserve of technical personnel for the company. Collaborate with professors and doctoral supervisors. Although time is a bit urgent, the news is still good news. Some time ago, Qing was worried that there were not enough RD personnel to cover up his brilliance. When encountering such a thing, he was naturally overjoyed. Promise to come down. You and Lao Luo will discuss the process with the docking over there. I have a little free time for research recently, and I can accompany them to have a look the day after tomorrow. Okay, then I'll reply to the person over there. Wait, they are coming. Do you want us to cover the board and lodging? Although he was a little admired by his boss's frugality, Dong Qi still said, they took the initiative to do research, and basically used funds. We arrange hotel accommodation, which can generally be reimbursed. Then we welcome you. Remember to ask clearly. If you can get reimbursed, book a better hotel. If you can't, you can discuss with Director Luo whether there is a dormitory for them to live in. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Boss Gu also lost the sense of happiness that he was bored with. Someone is coming, and there is no need for cleaning or anything. Thanks to the ban on smoking and alcohol in the park, the sanitation in the park has always been good. At most, you can pull up a banner. As for letting the staff and management welcome them, that's not necessary. Everyone is busy. Just pick up a few people. It's just that materials need to be prepared, and there are still some shady things that need to be hidden. It is impossible for scientific research leaders to ask about the research status of the robotic arm and say to themselves, it's not difficult, just follow the drawings. It would be too weird to have no project approval, investigation and research, or failed trials. The great inventor has to fail twice to get the final successful product, but this aspect is not difficult. Xuanwu can help him operate a little bit. As for the robotic arm, the underground research room is not easy to enter these days, so I can only go to the exclusive research room of the research building to make a few defective products. Although it is a bit like dealing with a teacher's inspection, others are pursuing perfect homework, and if it is placed here by Qing, it becomes self-defilement. Not long after, someone got busy in the research room on the top floor of the research building. Chapter 68 Robotic Arm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thus passed the first day of November. On November 2nd, the expected good news came. The team led by Zhang Tianhao won the bid. The relevant departments of Pudong City and Kyushu Technology Company began to have more in-depth contact, and they were about to go through the process and research products. As long as this level is passed, the project will be completely stable. Afternoon of November 3rd. Professor Zhuang Yuwei from Harbin Institute of Technology led a group of people off the plane. After meeting the pickup people, they came to Zhozhou Technology Company, limited in the suburbs of Rongchen. Qing greeted them with Dong Qi, Luo Songtang, and some executives. After meeting for a while, Wang Chaoran said in a doggy manner, our company specially ordered hot pot for everyone, and we will clean up the dust for you. There is no need for hot pot, and diarrhea is not good. Someone in the research team refused. Mandarin duck pot is not spicy, and there are other snacks, roast duck, roast goose and seafood. Huang Chaoran explained. No, let's take a look at your industry line first. Our joint research team is very curious. A bad old man who is not very social, waved his hand and refused the arrangement very bluntly. Qing did know that this gray-haired old man, Zhuang Yuwei, is a bigwig in the field of machinery. Of course, there are several famous bigwigs in this research team. Since Mr. Zhuang said so, let's accompany everyone to look at the industrial line first. Qing replied. Good boy, this is the way to do scientific research, and you are not afraid of being questioned by others. Zhuang Yuwei patted Qing on the shoulder and encouraged him. The projects under him are all big ones, so it's very easy to pat Boss Gu on the shoulder. Qing also knew the old man's cowhide, so he lowered his posture. Like a student, Fu Dalong was standing in the guard room, looking at his little boss like a primary school student, showing a modest smile because of the teacher's affirmation and encouragement. But when all the students and teachers entered the park and he closed the gate, he felt a little dazed for a moment. It seems that I have become the school gatekeeper. Because it was past 4 o'clock in the afternoon, some workers had changed shifts to go to the cafeteria to eat, and those on duty were rushing to their workstations, so people could be seen coming and going in and out of the park from time to time. The research team followed the guidance of Director Luo and walked to the production workshop. After changing into work clothes, they finally approached the first-line production line. Every time I go to the production workshop, whether it is a high-tech production enterprise or an electronic assembly factory, I am very impressed by human creativity. An old man beside Professor Zhuang Yuwei said with a sigh. This is the assembly and testing at the end of the industrial line. Going forward is the unmanned production workshop. Because the budget is not enough, we did not leave a tourist passage when we built it. So for the sake of safety, please line up in 2 rows and follow along. Be careful not to touch these switching valves in the workshop. Director Luo explained in front of him very carefully, and told everyone about safety issues. Although in the unmanned workshop, the probability of human accidents is small, but if the machine is damaged and production is delayed, it will be a big loss. The unmanned workshops of modern industrial factories have fulfilled most of the fantasies about the future of science fiction writers in the 1960s and 1970s. The computer program controls the robot, which can carry out production in the harsh environment. Of course, the more efficient and intelligent machine production is, the more it will highlight the clumsiness of ordinary industrial workers. So many factory owners and capitalists don't like wage workers and prefer machines that don't need wages, which leads to a lot of questions. In this regard, some developed countries have even introduced relevant laws and regulations to stipulate that the number of workers a factory must recruit must not be lower than a certain level, otherwise fines and taxes will be imposed. Of course, the production workshop is basically full of various arms of industrial robots, big and small, but the research team also saw a flexible robotic arm like an elephant's trunk, and they even participated in every link. When did such monsters and ghosts appear in the unmanned production workshop? Shouldn't they be all kinds of steel rigid mechanical arms? Zhuang Yue and other professors were absent-minded for a short while, and sighed. Your flexible robotic arm has been able to be produced and practical, and foreign countries are still in the laboratory stage. Did you buy the licensed technology or develop it independently? The smart dishwasher, is this the same technology as the robotic arm used on the sweeper, that like a machine gun? Several questions popped up suddenly. As a bad old man in the mechanical field, Zhuang Yue naturally knows that there are soft and hard robotic arms, but the accuracy and strength of soft robotic arms are more difficult to overcome than hardware robotic arms. The Harbin Institute of Technology and the University of Science and Technology have self-developed low-cost soft robot arms. In this regard, which can already complete manipulation tasks such as screwing bottle caps and cleaning glass in daily life, but they cannot move heavy objects like the flexible robotic arms in the workshop. And precision welding. The rigid mechanical arms of traditional industrial robots are subject to inherent limitations such as low load-to-weight ratio and poor flexibility, and it is difficult to fully meet the needs of new applications such as human-machine coexistence environments and human-machine collaborative tasks. Body mechanical arm, but how do you solve perception, modeling, motion model, and power adjustment? While inquiring, Zhuang Yue seemed to be a little obsessed, and unconsciously approached the unmanned production workshop. His eyes were full of curiosity. The strategy one adopt is to combine artificial intelligence programs with robots, and try to apply flexible materials to the bones and muscles of the robotic arm. Qing stopped Professor Zhuang and said briefly that he didn't want any problems. Zhuang Yue, who came back to his senses, asked, "Artificial intelligence program? I know you are also working on this project, but the intelligence of your sweeping robot is not enough." Qing nodded, and said softly, "After being used by hundreds of millions of users, Boundary Monument has given us a lot of inspiring data, and after cooperating with Xiaowei and other first-line mobile phone manufacturers, my development of smart programs has also reached a new level. So it is barely possible to transform this kind of mechanical arm. What about their accuracy? It can reach the millimeter level." Qing replied, but as soon as he said this, Zhuang Yue opened his mouth in surprise, grabbed its arm with his backhand, and said quickly, "The accuracy of producing soft robotic arms can reach millimeters, so how do you optimize the blades and processing? How's it going?" Mentioning this, Qing understood why the old man's demeanor suddenly became like this. In the machinery industry, precision machining was still a weak sector in Daxia in 2016 and 2017, and it basically relied on German or Japanese-Korean products to achieve high-precision production processes. As for the robotic arm, Daxia's domestic production can't even squeeze into the top-tier line, and can only rely on production to fight in the low-end market. P.S. Thanks to Su Huiping for the monthly pass, hehe. Chapter 69 Honeycomb Pneumatic Network Structure. You are listening at novelfold.audio. In high-precision processing production, the cooperation between the slicing system and the blade is necessary. In addition to size, there are three key parameters that determine blade characteristics: diamond, abrasive, size, diamond content, and type of bond. The bond is a matrix of various metals or diamond abrasives distributed therein. The combined effect of these elements determines the life and cutting quality of the insert. Changing any of these parameters will directly affect blade characteristics and performance. Selecting the best blade for a given slicing process may require a balance between blade life and cut quality. Other factors, such as feed rate and spindle speed, may also affect insert selection. Cutting parameters have a direct relationship to material removal rate, which in turn affects blade performance and process efficiency. For a process, in order to optimize the blade, designing a sufficiently efficient test method can reduce the number of tests required, and provide the combined effect of the blade characteristics and process parameters, and these require correspondingly intelligent program assistance. And such exquisite knife skills are naturally extremely versatile. Killing and stealing goods is too common, and the old yellow knife method is too one-sided, and cutting wafers is where it can play its best. Qing naturally knows the importance of cutting wafers. The first step in chip manufacturing is to make wafers, and then use a wafer slicer to cut silicon ingots into wafers of the required thickness. A good knife method can cut better and larger thin silicon wafers. And chips are the products of thin silicon wafers. Of course, this chip can be the chip of what we usually call a mobile phone computer, or it can be a storage chip of a memory stick or a memory card. The difference is that the design of the chip is different. However, Qing did not hide his clumsiness when it comes to sword skills, because his foundation is really bad, and the knowledge passed down by the Dimensional Empire does not use silicon chips. It's okay to cut ordinary materials. If you always want to get silicon wafers, we still can't meet that requirement, and as far as the current micron precision processing is concerned, it is still a laboratory product, which cannot be mass-produced, and the yield rate cannot be guaranteed. A basin of cold water was poured on Professor Zhuang's head, which made him calm down suddenly. After a while, the old man murmured to himself, "That's right, how old are you? Without equipment or talent, how could you have this kind of technology?" But when he looked at the mechanical arm in the workshop, he slapped his head again. "Then how is your robot technology doing now?" A fellow professor couldn't see it anymore, and dragged Zhuang Yue back to the team. "Old Zhuang, don't get carried away by Zhuang's affairs. They bought the technology from Germany's Commanda, which is not bad. Old Chui, I'm a little dizzy. It's not like you don't know that the monopoly of the United States, Japan and South Korea in semiconductors has restricted our high-end technology in Daxia everywhere." The professor called Old Chui patted Zhuang Yue on the shoulder and comforted him. "Others are also working hard to overcome it. We must first complete a few projects of our own before we can support them." Zhuang Yue, who calmed down, nodded. The visit of the research team in the afternoon also returned to normal. The Mandarin duck hot pot in the evening was a home away from home, and perhaps it was an expectation for the younger generations. Zhuang Yue also expressed that he would help Qing and Harbin Engineering Group to match each other and help each other to make the robot project bigger and stronger. Qing was flattered. During his previous investigation, he also learned how hard the body of Harbin Institute of Technology is. Since its establishment more than 10 years ago, Harbin Institute of Technology has achieved extraordinary operation and leapfrog development by taking advantage of the talents and technological advantages of Harbin Institute of Technology and its own successful capital operation. It is a comprehensive large-scale enterprise group with strong strength and strong international competitiveness based on the financial sector as the core and the commercial service industry sector as the guarantee. Moreover, Harbin Engineering Group, as a holding group company, holds 10 large group companies with capital as a link, holds Hejiang Dairy Group Corporation, participates in the listed company Aerospace Science and Technology, and establishes Gongda High-Tech and Aerospace Property by way of initiation. 2 standardized joint stock companies initiated the establishment of the first venture capital company in Hejiang and the first joint stock venture capital company in the country. These 10 large-scale group companies have nearly 100 wholly owned, holding, and shareholding companies involved in exhibition sports, bio-food engineering, dairy products, tourism hotels, information science and education, property management, and logistics management. After years of accumulation, it has fully matured, and it is at the leading level in the industry in terms of talent reserve, technical force, product structure, etc., and has all the elements for rapid growth. Of course, what Qing values most is the 8 regional overseas branches established by Harbin Engineering Group in the United States, Singapore, Neon, Russia and other countries, as well as the 2 listed companies it controls, and the import and export management rights granted by the state. Cooperating with such a behemoth, if it is not swallowed up, it will definitely be full of fat. As for cooperation, only when both parties have what they need can be regarded as cooperation. What Zhuang Yue wants, Qing knows, but what should be given in exchange for the other party's things in cooperation is the key point. After wandering around the research room on the top floor, his eyes finally fell on something like a honeycomb. Boy, is this the special material you mentioned last night? In an idle laboratory in the laboratory building, Zhuang Yue looked at the beehive on the test bench, but he was not surprised. After all, I have been in this industry for a long time, and I can see all kinds of exotic materials. Qing nodded, picked up the honeycomb and placed it in front of the research team. One side introduced Pneumatic honeycomb network. This is a natural rigid flexible structure, which has the characteristics of large deformation, high flexibility, high load-to-weight ratio and low cost. Parts constructed using it can resemble mollusks that are both supple and flexible. The inherent compliance and continuous deformation characteristics of soft robotic arms are in tune with it. Qing took out another honeycomb-shaped part, kneaded and pulled it, and explained, the deformation of the honeycomb aerodynamic network structure is caused by the folding and stretching of the hexagons that make up the honeycomb. It is also flexible. Preparation simple and durable, and the honeycomb aerodynamic network structure is a combination of honeycomb and airbag. When the airbag is inflated, it depends on the structural deformation of the honeycomb to produce bending or elongating motions in different directions. After putting down the beehive that had been stretched and deformed in his hand and recovered, he picked up the rough mechanical arm that was improvised just 2 days ago. This is the first time I have made an arm independently. Of course, it is a familiar rigid robotic arm. There is a set of motors, reducers, and controllers on each joint. But the weight and cost are high, and the effect is not great. Just this arm cost tens of thousands of yuan, and I hadn't started a business at the time, so I was forced to eat steamed buns every day. P.S. Thank you for the recommendation tickets from Little Fury War, Chenmeng Zueyin, On San Shui, Inha Gufashui. Good night everyone. Chapter 70 Old Zhuang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Later, Boundary Monument allowed me to obtain Xia Wei's financial assistance, and in their laboratory, when I watched the core logic construction of their artificial intelligence, the hive of bees in nature flashed across my mind. After countless attempts, I finally found that the pneumatic honeycomb structure can meet the relevant characteristics. But this kind of structure does not exist in the real world, so it can only be made by hand. Later, when I was looking for a second profitable project for the company, I met Director Luo at a meeting, and then expanded the size of the soft robot group in the laboratory, and continued to improve the control algorithm with the newly graduated graduate team members, and successively overcome arm shaking and other technical problems. After hard work day and night, the pneumatic honeycomb network software actuator developed by the team can realize the manipulation of irregular objects in three-dimensional space. The robot's flexible gripper, which is independently developed later, can grasp objects of various shapes, sizes, and materials, breaking through the limitations of rigid grippers. The flexible robotic arm technology of intelligent robots has great research value and broad application. Prospects in the fields of intelligent manufacturing, medical rehabilitation, and home services. For example, let robots polish the surface of products of different shapes, spray paint without dead ends on high-speed rail, bullet trains, and subway cars, or feed bedridden elderly people. Qing's eloquent speech at this moment does not seem abrupt among the crowd, because many of them have seen how excited the parties will be when the results of research and scientific research are released. Of course, from actor Qing's point of view, if he doesn't perform well, how can he sell at a good price, and even move the boss to kidnap some researchers? Finally, seeing that everyone's emotions had been mobilized, he finally said, "Our Kyushu Technology Company has mastered the cheat book of the scientific principles of soft robots, but the application of technology is still a big challenge. Many companies hope to buy products But I think a high-tech research and development enterprise should focus more on original innovation in key technology research and development, rather than being a comprador of high-tech products. Therefore, I think it is indeed feasible to cooperate with Harbin Engineering Group, everyone to play their respective advantages, harmonious complementarity and win-win. After the words fell, Zhuang Yuwei took the lead and applauded. Then the old man walked to the test bench, pinched the honeycomb material, confirmed some of the performance, and then went straight to the topic. What about the specific cooperation method? Gu Qing froze for a moment. Is this person so direct? Little did he know that Professor Zhuang Yuwei, as an old Northeast, was used to being straightforward. Seeing that Gu Qing was stunned and did not speak, the old professor thought that the young man was reserved and couldn't save his face, so he continued, how about this? We, Harbin Institute of Technology, will give you a sum of money as an authorization fee, and then send a research team to work with you. We share the results of the research, and we share the commercial profits with everyone. Point 73. Gu Qing's first reaction was that he was 7 in Ha Gongsan, but on second thought, maybe something was wrong. How about 7 or 3, let's say 5 or 5? Boss Gu said calmly. At this moment, Zhuang Yuwei, who was originally an old professor with a pleasant face, immediately blew his beard and stared, like an old man in the square. 5. I'll give you money and talent support, and you give me 5. You don't do business like that. There are many applications for flexible robotic arms and pneumatic honeycomb structures. Your assistance can only be said to be icing on the cake, but it is not impossible to do it without it. I have shown my sincerity, and Professor Zhuang should naturally show some sincerity. 200 million financial assistance, the school recruits partners, and a research team of 20 people is stationed. How about June 4th? Facing the eyes of the research team, Gu Qing shook his head, stretched out his right hand, and spread his fingers. The 200 million research funds are paid in full, and the patents belong to our company. You only have priority authorization and some free authorization rights. After the results are produced, the commercial profits will be divided into 50-50, if you can, then sign, if not, then get together and leave. After the voice fell, the scene cooled down in an instant. The students in the research team naturally lowered their heads and did not dare to breathe loudly. As a student in the teacher's research project, the teacher is actually the boss, who controls their finances and academic qualifications. Therefore, in this situation, discussing cooperation with the two companies can be said to be equivalent. Is it true that you won't give up a single point? No, this is the result of my hard work. If you want to take it, you can. Want to prostitute for nothing? No. Boy, do you know the background of our Harbin Engineering Group? Do you believe that tomorrow your factory will be inspected by the Environmental Protection and shut down for renovation? Do you believe that when the land of your factory expires, the government will take it away and not give it to you? Believe it or not, when I go out, your reputation in academia will be ruined, and your brand will be trashed by the media. Zhuang Yuwei's words were ugly, and the old man's expression was also very excited, and he even threw the research materials in his hand on the research table. The entire research room was suddenly silent, and some timid students even turned pale with fright. He had never seen a teacher in this state. However, Dong Qi and Director Luo beside Gu Qing dared not speak out. The former is restrained, while the latter is calm, but the young boss in front of them sneered, said, I have saved the recordings and videos. If you mess with us, in the next second, all the users of Boundary Monument across the country will know the urine of your Harbin Engineering Group, and everyone in the country will know about your face, Zhuang Yuwei. The company will know what is the Harbin, who eats people but does not spit out bones. Laugh. After Gu Qing's decisive words fell, Zhuang Yuwei suddenly smiled. Not only did he smile, but he kept supporting the research table with one hand on his waist and the other. When he was calm, he said with emotion, Good boy, you are a material. I hope you can straighten your back and walk like this. The 200 million research funding is fine, but the 30 million full amount can be given to you. The patent belongs to your company, and there are a group of young people. How about choosing between your company and them? It was a sudden change in the style of painting. Professor Zhuang's reaction made the students behind him puzzled by Monk Zhang air. For example, Chu Ci tilted his head inside, with question marks on his face, what the hell? On the contrary, Gu Qing smiled and nodded, and said, thank you Mr. Zhuang for your support and Harbin Engineering Group for your assistance. I promise to lead the research team to produce results as soon as possible. Don't make this kind of guarantee, just like those old things, you, work hard, walk your own way, and don't be misled by some people and some capital. Zhuang Yue waved his hands, and said with a dejected expression, back then, some people just walked crookedly, and their buttocks were crooked when they walked. P.S. I plan to not use my brain.